Take it away.
All right, good evening and welcome to the February 9th regular meeting of the Board of Estimate and Taxation for the City of Norwalk. Madam Clerk, may I get you to call a roll, please?
Yes, sir. And I apologize. I don't know if you all can see me, but my camera doesn't seem to be working, but I'm here. Good evening, everyone. Mayor Smith,
Present.
Mr. Adams.
Abrams here.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Abrams. Mr. Constant,
Here.
Mr. Jelleret,
Here, here,
Mr. Kasimis,
here.
Ms. Yang.
Ms. Yang is here, but she is in transit and on mute at the moment.
Okay, I will note that she is here. We have a quorum.
And you forgot to ask for Mr. Andrasco.
Oh, I apologize again, Mr. Andrasco.
Present for the first time.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Our
Thank you.
first order of business is to welcome Joe as a formal member of the BET for the City of Norwalk. Joe, welcome to the board and the team. We look forward to your contributions. Do you want to just make a few opening remarks, let the team know a little bit about you and who you are, all those things?
Yeah, sure. Joe Andrasco, Norwalk since 2010, I think maybe 2011. Born and raised in Connecticut. Just in terms of education, bachelor's and master's degree in mathematics, so a little analytic. A lot of numbers, love to dive in. Professional background is in consumer banking on the reserves, capital, and liquidity side. So I've got that side of it, and in consumer lending. And then, in terms of city service, I was on the, and familiarity with the BET, I was on the Oak Hills Park Authority for 6 years as treasurer presenting to the BET and as chair presenting to the BET. So I got to experience and got to know a couple of the members here already. Excited to start work.
Great. Thank you very much. And again, welcome. First order of business tonight before we go through minutes from the last meeting is I'd like to move a small agenda change, please. During the other business section, I'd like to move the discussion of the special capital appropriation for the Historic Commission to precede the presentation of the FY 26-27 operating budget. Can I get somebody to move that, please?
I'll move it.
Thank you, Artie. All in favor of the agenda order change signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. We will move that in terms of the agenda items. All right, then our first agenda item is the acceptance of the minutes from our special meeting on January 12th. Does anyone have any changes, amendments, revisions to the minutes as presented in our package?
You want to move it first, Ed?
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Troy. I'm so busy getting through it. Can I move the minutes for discussion, please? Thank you, Troy. So now, any changes, amendments, revisions to the minutes as presented in our package? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes as presented, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Thank you, Joe. So noted you weren't as part of the meeting, so that makes sense. The minutes are approved. I do not believe we have any special appropriations tonight, so we can move directly to transfers. Can I get someone to please move the transfers for discussion
move
and
it.
approval? Thank you, Artie. And tonight I would like to suggest that we take each transfer one by each because there's one that is a little bit more complex and requires a little bit of conversation. So the first transfer is the health department. So Tom, do you want to talk to that one?
Yes, this one is from the health department, Deanna, who's been here on a number of occasions in front of the BET previously, usually for instances of residents being displaced due to fires. A little bit of a different situation now that most of you probably are aware of, that was in the local press and got some attention. Quite a few residents were impacted, thus the rather significant amount for the request from contingency. So at this point, I will turn it over to Deanna. And I thought I saw Bill Mooney also on the line here, but I know Deanna is there. So Deanna, if you want to take it away, you are welcome to.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you to members of the Board of Estimate Taxation. So as Tom has described, we're requesting a transfer to cover relocation assistance costs. As you're well familiar with the Connecticut Uniform Relocation Assistance Act, the city must provide relocation benefits and assistance to individuals who have been displaced by code enforcement activities. And so, as you may have seen on January 24th, we were notified of a break in the indoor domestic water supply line at Halsted. It was the night before the snowstorm was beginning. The whole building had to be relocated. And so, as such, we jumped in and provided assistance to relocate folks to hotels. Most of people were able to go back into their units within the first 4 days after 4 nights. But we still have people that are under a relocation program. And so we're working really closely on providing assistance to them and getting them back into their units. So this request is based on how much we've spent so far, how much we're projecting based on the best available information that we have, that it's going to cost in the future, as well as some additional funds for our other relocation cases that we have.
Thank you, Deanna. Questions for Deanna about this?
I do.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Artie. Thank you.
Deanna, when we get reimbursed by their insurance companies, we get dollar for dollar, or is there a percentage?
So it's a great question. I spoke with Darren Callahan. He's in our city's law department. So they really take the lead on this part of it. The health department takes the lead on providing the assistance into the hotels. But he has advised us that the city has recovery rights against the landlords when tenants are displaced as a result of health, fire, and or building code violations that are attributable to the landlord. So he indicated to me that the city is currently pursuing that recovery and engaged in discussions with their legal representatives regarding the same. But he said if there's interest in this discussion, he'd be happy to speak to people or organize an executive session for that purpose.
Jared, do you want to add any color commentary on that?
No, I don't have anything to add. Like Deanna said, we're waiting to waiting for more information from Corporation Counsel as they continue to explore this.
Okay. Additional questions for Deanna?
Yeah, just Troy. As I've asked, I think it's a great program for the city to have, obviously, and I've asked Deanna and I've asked Jared. Jared, do we normally get reimbursement from the owners of these properties from their insurance or from somewhere? I've asked this many times now, and I've never really gotten such an answer on this.
Deanna might know better. I know we typically seek reimbursement. we don't usually experience something like this in such a high volume. I don't know what our success rate is in terms of recovering. Deanna, are you aware of that?
I don't have the exact figures, but I do know that the efforts are made to get reimbursed for where we can, and that one of the avenues that are in place are pursuing liens on properties, and sometimes that can take a long time to make happen. But I know that in the past we have been able to recover money through that lens. But we can certainly follow up again to get additional clarification on that.
Yeah, obviously this one's a very large, it's an unusual one, but Jared, can you just put together something for the last 5 years to see how our success rate was been? Because I've asked this every time this comes up and I haven't seen anything. Thanks.
Sure. Yep.
Any additional questions?
Just a
Madam Mayor.
comment. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Abrams. Yeah, just some additional commentary. There were some emails back and forth between Darren Callahan and the property owner today. And, we are very much pursuing reimbursement from them. Darren has been very firm in his approach, and we'll just keep at it.
Okay. Thank you for the color.
Mhm.
Additional questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the transfer as presented, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The transfer is approved. Tom, do we want to address the second transfer then for the registrar of voters, please?
Yes, the next one is the registrar of voters. I want to be clear up front. This is not a request from contingency. So I know they've been before us a couple of times already this year, largely due to the early voting and the primaries. So what had happened is we had transferred a pretty considerable amount of money over to them to cover all of their costs. And at the same time, Diana and Stuart were working with the controller team on some grant money that they had. They were able to identify some expenses that were previously on their operating expenses that they were able to get covered via grants. So they do have some surplus money in their temporary account right now. And what they're attempting to do here is to true up some of their accounts and just accommodate some planning for the balance of the year, as well as some state mandates that are coming up. I want to point out that there is just one minor clerical error here. If you look over on the right-hand side on page 11, election signs for $500 is listed twice. It should only be listed once. So that total down at the bottom is really will be 25,765, not 26,265. So we have Stuart on the line here to walk us through this and take any questions from the board.
Thank you, Stuart. Questions from anybody on the board regarding this interdepartmental transfer? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the transfer signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The transfer is approved. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much.
Good
All
job,
right.
Stuart.
So, Tom, I believe the next item moves to other business and the agenda change that we just made regarding the historical commission. Can I get that moved for discussion and approval,
I'll move
please?
it.
Thank you, Artie.
Yeah, so just a little bit of background before I turn it over to these gentlemen. There is a capital request for the fiscal year 27 for the conservatory. And David and Doug can explain in further detail what part of the mansion that is and what the issue is. But that is, I believe it's for $1.5 million. But in advance of that, they are looking for funding due to the urgency of the repairs required to get started on design and planning and research. And that is the reason that they are here today. This is not a request for funding outside of any already existing bond proceeds. You guys will recall the 911 communications dispatch program. There's still a surplus of funds remaining there. So our proposal here is to transfer $275,000 from that project into this conservatory project. Assuming that this makes it through all the way to the city council, we will establish a new account number upon the final approval. David? Douglas?
Hang
Go
on,
ahead.
before we
Go
go
ahead.
to David, Madam Clerk, can I get you to read the proposed
sorry.
resolution into the record, please? It's at the bottom of page 15 of our package.
I need to open that. I apologize.
It's okay.
Okay. Page 15. Sorry, slowly opening. Okay. Okay. And I'm sorry, this is the bottom of page 15, did you say?
Yes.
Resolution to transfer unexpended funds to a new project. Be it resolved that a special capital appropriation of $275,000 is hereby transferred from the combined dispatch capital project for the communications upgrade account noted to the city's Office of Building Management Department on behalf of the Historical Commission for the conservatory project referenced below. Be it
And then-
further
Yep.
Be it further resolved that a special capital appropriation of $275,000 is hereby transferred to the city's Office of Building Management Department on behalf of the Historical Commission for the research, design, and engineering work associated with the conservatory at the Lockwood Matthews Mansion. Funds will be appropriated to a new account established upon final approval from the City Council. Project specifics are detailed and described in Exhibit A attached hereto.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Okay, Tom, now do you want to turn it over to David and team?
Yes, David, Douglas, go ahead, anytime you're ready.
Thank you, Commissioners, Mayor Smith, for putting this on the agenda tonight, and thank you for moving us up on the agenda too. We appreciate that. So the conservatory is if you look in your packet, there's some pictures. The part we're discussing is this semicircular part, or I guess it's like a quarter of a globe. It has three main beams in it. Vertical beams and a couple of horizontal beams. The three main vertical beams have all rotted from the inside, from where they're up against the glass at the seams. We couldn't see this happening until it actually started leaking, and then we found that all three beams have significant rot in it. One of the lateral beams as well, the horizontal beams is also has a fair amount of rot in it. We have added a bunch of supports to temporary to keep it from collapsing, and we're keeping snow off of it and things like that. But it is in a not a good situation for the conservatory. This isn't the original material. The conservatory, apparently a big tree fell on it, or a big limb fell on it in the early 70s, and it was replaced. And I think at that time, the structure was changed from metal to wood. But anyway, we don't have any firm estimates because all this is a custom type of work that'll have to be done. But we have met extensively with the mansion's architects, David Scott Parker, our architects who's been the architect for the mansion since 2009. Anyway, and we've come up with some estimates. We think the replacement cost is somewhere around 1.5 to 1.75 million. We put a request in the 26-27 capital budget for that amount. But what we would like to do is, because of the dangerous situation of precarious situation the conservatory is in, we're asking that we take $275,000 of that request so that we can go ahead and get started on the research, the engineering and design work to get this project moving as quickly as possible. So that's what we're here today. Doug Hempstead, I didn't really introduce myself. I'm a member of the Historical Commission. Doug Hempstead is the president of the Lockwood Matthews Mansion Museum, Inc., which is a 501c3 that is in private-public partnership with the city of Norwalk for many years, obviously. And we're here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you both. Questions for David or Doug?
Uh, Can I comment here, Mayor?
Oh,
Welcome. Good afternoon, Mayor. Good evening, and the rest of the BET. The only thing, the time that we're trying to pick up is if we waited, if we're approved, hopefully, for the money to do the estimated repairs. Why the special appropriation is the pickup time.
Yeah.
Because if we can pick up the next few months in engineering and drawings, we'll make the project that more easier to start in the summer or late or at least fall and get to winter, because winters are a super concern. We were there all weekend. We had extra heat in there too, just, because we didn't know the snow amounts. And the wind too was something else this weekend, as we all know. So this helps us get ahead of it and gets us a better idea of what really needs to be done.
This is Troy.
Go
Just
ahead, Troy.
quick question. I just want to make sure, David, you just said that this money will just be taken early from what you guys requested. This is not new money on top of the request that you made for your capital budget of 1.750, whatever that number ends up at. Is that correct?
Yes, we expect to reduce that request.
Oh, by that amount. Okay. And I'm just curious. I know that you did all the renovations, and I know this is a very capital intensive place, but this room wasn't part of the decision when you guys did the last renovation with the state money. I think it was 20 million or something in that amount.
It was 17.5 million,
17.
and that project was solely mechanical systems in the building, running electric power throughout the building, sprinkler systems for fire suppression, lighting, emergency exit lighting, and new HVAC. That we didn't really do much we did a little bit of restoration work, but we probably need in the neighborhood of 20 to 25 million more dollars to completely restore the building, including all the pretty stuff, the decorative finishes and things like that. But that project was solely mechanical systems to give us the ability to then do all the other stuff. No,
right.
we were not aware of this problem until we noticed it leaking just about, I think it was in November of this year. So.
And now, as a result of the work that was done with the HVAC and stuff, are you using is it being used year round now? I know it was some restrictions with the winter and the summer.
Yes, we're open year round now.
We've
Great.
been open. We had an event Saturday night, in fact, with the Junior League of Stanford Norwalk, who were the original people involved with saving this and getting the whole relationship with the city going. Just to give you a little insight, if possible, it's something we did not go after in the beginning, and nor did we know it was this bad. It's kind of like the extra the money that we had to have appropriated for the trusses that were not initially. They started drilling in flanges for the supports for our fire suppression system, and they went right through. It was covered up, you wouldn't see it. And next thing you know, we found there's 2 rotted trusses up there. So some of the, this is one of those buildings, like the box of chocolates, we don't know what we're going to get, sometimes. But
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Living in a 120-year-old house, I understand myself. Artie.
Quick question, Doug. You mentioned that the rot, it's in danger of collapsing now, and you did some support system. Can this wait till August?
Not really, because the engineering is going to take months. It's not like days, it takes months, and we will have a better handle on what it is we need material wise to get a better grip on what's going to be needed to redo this whole thing. It is plastic. They, instead of replacing it with the glass, so some of the glass broke, they put all plastic sheets in there.
Ooh.
And that's they're deteriorating too. I mean, it's been up there for 30 years,
Yeah.
25 at least.
No, it's 50 years,
So,
over 50
yeah.
years.
Did I answer your question, or you would?
Yeah, no. So I guess you're going to come back sooner, I guess, for more money, huh?
Well, that's why we're asking the capital budget for
Yeah.
the whole thing. But in an early discussion, we said, and David's one who brought it up, if we get the engineering money now,
Mhm.
we can get ahead of it. Because
Okay.
I really don't. none of us are comfortable having to have to go through another winter. I mean,
Yeah,
as it was, we've been babying this thing for the last few weeks, this
gotcha.
winter.
Similar to Artie's question, do you, so I'm sure this picture was taken before the snow that we had last weekend. Um, did the snow settle on it? Do you have concerns about the weight of upcoming snowstorms causing more problems?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's why we shorted
So
up.
what,
So
so what do we
we
do in the
shorted up.
meantime?
Yeah.
We've
What do
been
we do in
pouring
the
extra
meantime?
heat in there. Yeah, we've been
Yeah,
pouring extra heat in there and trying to, if there's any snow, sweeping it off as gently as we can. So,
yikes.
but it's
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
We haven't had a winter like this, what, 20 years?
No, we haven't.
Probably.
Long time, long time. Yeah, but there's been so much investment in the mansion and it's unfortunate this happened, but we've got to deal with it. Got to deal with it as quickly as possible.
It's a lot bigger asset than I even imagined until I got involved with chairman. I've been on the board for a long time, but with the council stuff, you don't realize until you're there talking to
Yeah.
people and understanding the real deep history of it. Um,
Oh, it's a gem of the city for sure that we want to protect.
I appreciate the support you've given us over the last few years, for sure.
Oh, you bet. Happy to do it.
So any additional questions on this item? All in favor of the special appropriation as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The special appropriation is approved. May your engineering work move quickly, gentlemen. Good luck with it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The next item on our agenda is the presentation of the proposed FY 26-27 operating budget. I do not believe we need to move that since it's an informational presentation and there is nothing to vote on for that tonight. But Tom, Jared, I just want to make sure I am correct in that assertion. Assuming I am, I see you nodding, Tom. Before
Yes,
we
you
get
are.
into the presentation, Madam Mayor, can I turn to you for opening remarks, please?
Yes, I do have a statement that I would like to share with you. It's fairly long, so please bear with me. And also, just want to start by thanking all the members of the Board of Estimate and Taxation for the work that we're about to undertake. This is the formal public onset of our budget season, even though there's been a great deal of work that has already been done. I also want to speak directly to residents now who may be watching tonight to share some context about what is shaping this particular budget. This is my first budget as your mayor, but many of you know it's far from my first budget cycle here in the city of Norwalk. As a Norwalk resident and your mayor, this is a challenging budget year for Norwalk. We've heard it's been tough budget year, but this is really, really challenging this year. There's three major cost drivers that are shaping this budget. First, skyrocketing healthcare costs. This isn't unique to Norwalk, and unfortunately, I think we all know this is going on across the state and the nation, and Norwalk is no different. Second is contractual obligations. We had 6 collective bargaining agreements come to fruition at the same time, and that's really driving costs up this year. Third, as you know, we're still in the middle of the revaluation phase in. So these pressures are structural. And here I want to just talk about how we're responding and what we're doing differently moving forward. So first, with the contractual obligations, we want to be competitive and we want to pay those who keep us safe fair wages and to retain quality and talented employees here in our great city. But moving forward, we've spread out the collective bargaining agreement negotiations so they won't hit us all at once in the future and we can better plan financially for any increases. Healthcare. We are investing money in our internal services fund to help offset the tax burden for healthcare costs and insurance moving forward. This is going to hurt our tax bill this year, but we'll be in a better financial situation. And of course, the revaluation. Although the reval is a state mandate that must happen every 5 years, the timing for us coming out of the post-COVID housing surge made its impact particularly difficult for Norwalk. We're working to build our grand list and bring in businesses and develop responsibly to bring housing costs down in the years to come. Another very important factor is we're continuing to invest in the future in terms of our schools. We want to make sure that our schools continue to do the wonderful job of identifying students with special needs earlier and giving them the support they need so that they can meet their full potential as they grow. We're bringing those services in-house and providing early interventions. This may cost more now, but it will help our students, which is so important, and ultimately will save us money in the future. We want to avoid short-term decisions that create bigger challenges down the road. I want us to not only consider the implications of this budget today, but for the future as well. So tonight we'll present the initial budget proposal, but please do remember this is a living, breathing document that will change many times between now and the end of the budget process. Tomorrow night, I'm going to just give some upcoming dates. Tomorrow night, the budget will be presented to the City Council and then to the Finance and Claims Committee that will hold their public hearing this Thursday. At the end of the month, the City Council will set the budget cap for the operating budget. Starting in early March, the BET will conduct meetings with city departments to discuss any adjustments that can be made. There will be a public hearing on March 25th with the BET, and then the final cap is set by the City Council no later than April 21st. My goal is to put Norwalk on stronger footing for the future. I also want to engage residents in the budget process. Send emails, and what I'd like you to do for the public is make sure to reach out. You can send emails to the BET members, to council members, and of course to me. Please attend public hearings that are going to be held and make your priorities and your voices heard. Everyone may not agree with the decisions that we make, but I do promise you that we're looking at every possibility to make this as painless as possible for our residents and to looking ahead to the future. And thank you for those few moments. And Mr. Abrams, I guess we'll turn it over to our CFO, Jared Schmidt.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and thank you, Mayor, for your comments and remarks. I'm going to share my screen. I did send an email at the beginning of the meeting, and I sent with it two attachments. One is the presentation itself, and the other one is the line item detail of the budget. And there's also a link. I was able to post those online. There's a link to to those documents as well on our website. Minutes. You see that?
Yep, you're all good.
All right, before I start, I do want to say thank you so much to my team, especially to Tom Ellis and Kim Kinsella, Kimberly Kinsella, his assistant director, and also obviously to Chitsune, who's always involved in these things as well. And so, as you all know, this is a months-long process. And they're here and part of that every step of the way. In addition, I want to say thanks to all the department heads. As the mayor said, it's a very difficult budget year, and they have been cooperative and helpful along in the process, answering a lot of questions that we had to be sure that we're doing our due diligence and making sure that we're doing right by the taxpayers. So without further ado, okay, I'm going to maybe going a little bit deeper, a little more detail, but the mayor did talk about a few of these things that I'm going to address. This is the third year of the real estate revaluation phase in, the third year of the phase in. And I will get into more detail regarding the grand list later on. The Board of Ed's request was for 6.5%. I put a footnote on there. There was some discussion about whether or not that should include the 4.5 million that was that came later after the FY26 budget was approved. And I'll talk about that a little bit more too. As the mayor mentioned, it's a definitely a statewide thing because we are part of the state healthcare plan. We piggyback off of them. It's called the Partnership 2.0 plan, and the entire state is seeing increases. We in Fairfield County typically have higher increases, and ours are between 13 and 14%. We're typically a percent or two higher than the rest of the state. We did have to fund 6 collective bargaining agreements that settled, and we did stagger them at least into 2 groups so that the police and fire for those contracts are for 5-year terms, and all the other ones are for 4-year terms, so they won't all hit at the same time. Mayor mentioned we're fortifying the internal service fund, and I'll definitely get into more detail about this. That there, we have over the last few years utilized a balance in the internal service fund to help offset the what appropriations we would normally make into healthcare, as well as the other buckets of the internal service fund, which includes workers' compensation and also our LAP bucket, which is the liability, automobile, and property insurance and claims. And so we did have to make a significant contribution to the internal service fund. For the FY27 year, we are not going to see the additional revenue from a tax sale. That will be coming in this year. Hopefully that we will see another successful sale as we have in past years. But we are on every other year cycle, and so the next time that we would include that revenue, that additional revenue would be in 28. We're experiencing decreased investment income because rates have been falling, did fall, have pretty much stabilized at this point. And we also have the corpus, the principal that gets invested is declining as well, because we don't have funds like cash from the ARPA revenue and from other grants that we were getting fairly high value. Pension costs to be determined. We have an estimated cost right now, but we're expecting that within the next 2 weeks to a month that we will get a final there. I don't expect it to have a gigantic impact, but we may need to make some adjustments to that. So we've heard the challenges. This is we have a list of things that we're trying to do to meet these challenges. As you all know, you'll see it and know it from the history that we don't have a lot at our disposal because we're so dependent on property tax revenue as the largest portion of our budget, our revenue stream, and so we don't have a lot at our disposal, but we do. We try to find things as we can. One of the things we did this last year in a little bit of a different way. This year, I'm proposing a citywide unallocated salary lapse. So what is this? This is where every year, every year since I've been here and preceding that we've been under budget. The departments have been under budget because they've been frugal with their budgets with regard to salaries. And there's always turnover and periods where, there may be temporary vacancies because we're waiting to hire people. And so what typically happens is we recognize this at the end of the year as part of the surplus. What I'm proposing is that we budget this. And so at the bottom of the budget, you will see a line item for an unallocated salary lapse of $3 million. Our experience in past years has been pretty well over that amount, and so we believe that this is going to be achievable. And then the way it would work is that after toward the end of the year or after the end of the year, we will true up that account and allocate those lapses to the various departments as they experience these reductions related to their salaries. We did this last year. We used some bond premium. We had accrued a decent amount of bond premium based on past bond issuances, and so we are proposing to utilize some of that, and then to step the amount that we use down, which is hugely important. That we're planning to use $5 million as part of this budget to keep other costs low and keep our overall appropriation down. And then we would step that down over the upcoming year. So it would be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, so that we don't end up in a situation where we have a gigantic cliff after using this. Once again, we're proposing to draw down on fund balance, and this has been a part of the projection since the revaluation and since the start of the phase-in. And so we're proposing to do $7 million. We reduced it by $1 million. We're proposing to do $7 million of the fund balance drawdown. Last year, in FY25, we actually used less than we had planned. We had budgeted 8, and we ended up using 5.5. So little good news, bad news there. It's never great to draw down fund balance, but we did less than we had budgeted, so that's good. We're continuing the motor vehicle registration compliance program. We're very close to starting to see the fruits of our consultants and the work that they do going around the city to identify vehicles that are not in compliance. We've updated the allocation of trash collection costs to participating homeowners. So this was a lot of this was a fairness issue, and also to make sure that the mill rate is placed where it should be, so that the mill rate related to trash collection is assigned to homeowners that are getting the trash collection, rather than it be socialized throughout the entire town. I talked about third year of the revaluation. It's not a great thing, but it's helped us to phase in those costs. We're implementing red light cameras, which is expected to bring in a fairly healthy amount of revenue, at least within the first year, and then after. But the idea here is not so much to be a revenue generator than it is to get people to comply with red lights, and not running through red lights, and hopefully avoiding accidents in the future. That will be a separate revenue account, similar to, we've talked about mint money, opioid money, those kinds of revenues. This would be a similar account, so it's going to be outside of the general fund budget, because it has that revenue has to be used for specific purposes designated by the state. Last year, we increased the personal property mill rate from 28 to 32. We're maintaining that. We did reduce the BOE requested increase, get into. And we've also done a thorough vetting and made some reductions to the department requests. This is just an overview of the revenues and their variances between the 26 adopted budget and the 27 mayor's recommended budget. Again, I touched on the investment income, and you can see the reduction there. Fund balance usage. So and again, the primary revenue sources are our tax revenue, our property tax revenue. We're continuing to see very strong permits related to building. That continues to be strong. So I think this is the third year in a row where we've seen that. So bringing that and trying to get the development in a controlled way to continue to increase that revenue. This is an overview, a summary of the budget by division here. You can see the top lines of the Board of Education. Again, the proposal from the board was a 6.5% increase. The mayor's proposing a 4% increase. For clarification, we did include the $4.5 million in the base budget, in the base FY26 budget. So it's that 4.5 million was in that, and the mayor is proposing a 4% increase, which is rounds up to about $10 million. Debt service is continuing to rise, but you see there that we're controlling that by using debt service premium. So that is helpful to us. The employee benefits, I mentioned this earlier. This has to do with the internal service fund with rising healthcare costs. And that's a large increase. As you can see, it's a $14.5 million increase. It's a combination of, again, the 14% increase that everybody's experienced. It's also has to do with the other buckets of the internal service fund that I mentioned, the LAP bucket, the workers' comp bucket, where we had to increase our appropriation there. And the issue was that because we had relied on that to subsidize our appropriation over the past few years, we're just not in a place where we can do that anymore. The balance in there is no longer sufficient that we can continue to use that balance, and it's all hitting at once. What you'll see is that a lot of the other increases are related to the collective bargaining agreements and the compounding of 2 years worth of salary increases. And the salary lapses at the bottom, the $3 million there. The city increase is 10.72%. $22 million increase. As the mayor said, I would, 3 categories. It's the collective bargaining agreements. It's the internal service fund, in particular healthcare, but also the other components of the internal service fund to a lesser extent that are really driving these increases. So you saw the sort of historical comparison. Now this will show you the expenditures by use and how relate to each other and to the budget overall. You see the education component of it 53%, and each of the other components, which stay fairly stable. The employee benefits are definitely increasing for all the reasons that I mentioned. But it's also important to know on the next slide, we talk about this all the time. There's the amount that we appropriate to the Board of Education, but there are also in-kind services that are paid for by the city, directly by the city. And the biggest component of that, the biggest single component of that is debt service. So the city has the debt service item. It is solely in our budget. And that amounts to approximately, I believe, about $17 million, 17 or $18 million in debt service. And then the remaining amount is services that we do in kind, whether it's finance, HR, and other services that we do. There's a lot of legal support that we provide. We have one of our attorneys spends about 3/4 of his time dealing with legal issues related to the Board of Education. And so we allocate all of those and we report those to the state. So when you factor those the in-kind services, obviously there's a shifting then the city's budget would go down and the Board of Ed goes up. And to the extent that there's the Board of Ed in effect is about 62% of the budget and the city is 38% of the budget. So just give a little bit of detail on the collective bargaining agreements. Again, we talk about the staggering in the future, which is going to be helpful to us. There were added step increases, and the goal, as the mayor said, this was all about employee retention. We're in competition with all other cities and private sector, and typically we don't pay as well as the private sector, and so. So there are increases here, but we're hoping that that'll make some strides in terms of retaining employees. We equalized the fire and police pension benefits. There were some older employees prior to 2013 who had certain pension benefits, and then when there was effectively a second tier of pension benefits that was created in 2013. That was a reduced benefit for those employees that came on, for those police and firefighters that came on after that time. This was actually basically reversing that and bringing them back into alignment because it was creating morale problems within their departments. The general wage increases are between 2.5% and 3% annually, depending on the year, depending on the collective bargaining unit. Overall, the increase, the 2-year increase was about $9 million in salary increase between FY25 and FY27. There was also an increase in the city's contribution to the 401A by 1%. We find that there is people were attracted to the city in the past because of the pension plan, the defined benefit pension plan. We obviously no longer have that, but the thought that this may be a way by increasing the defined contribution plan and the city's contribution to it to offset that, the effect of it. You've seen this. This is just some history of the fund balance. And I will just ask you to bear in mind that this is on a budgetary basis, which differs a little bit from what the rating agencies look at. And so typically, so for FY 25, for example, we were slightly above 20%. So we usually are a little bit higher, a couple percentage points higher, not on a budgetary basis. And so this is a projection. Again, we're going to wait and see how FY 26 plays out. So we have budgeted $8 million. We're budgeted $7 million for 27, and we'll see how those years play out. So the costs increase. We know that the phase-in is playing a role. And so what's the impact on the taxpayer? So here's the district by district breakdown of the tax increase, the mill rate increase, 4.6, and then down to 3.8%. And then we always do the analysis of the median home. We look at the median home and we apply that rate to it, and you can see what this amounts to in dollar terms. It's not easy. This is not an easy year, as the mayor mentioned. And so these increases are going to affect residents. So I'm just you can see the FY 26 median tax there by district and the FY 27, and then the difference. So that would be the projected increase on the median home. We had a good grand list year. As usual, number one, we filed on time. So we filed before the deadline, which is great, because it gives us a little more certainty and know what to budget here. And then kind of across the board, we saw increases in the net grand list because of the reval phase-in. There's an automatic $750 million a year in real estate that gets added to it. And so each year of the phase-in, there will be $750 million increase in real estate. But in addition to that, we are seeing some natural growth as well. And so I call your attention to the net taxable grand list change. Kind of in the middle there, that 1,000,000,050 number. So if you assume that 750 of that is because of the phase-in, that means that there's 300 million in growth, which is a very solid growth. And then below is a good sign. It's down at the bottom there where we break out the residential and commercial. This is a good sign because we know that the issue was that residential grand list and outpaced the commercial. Here we're seeing that commercial is chipping away at that. I'm not going to say it's not, this isn't a massive sea change, but it's starting to chip away at that. And hopefully that started the trend the other way, where we see that the commercial will come back and hopefully offset the dramatic change that we saw back in 2023. This is just an explanation of the phase-in and the revaluation, just to remind everybody what I was just talking about. We saw average home value increased by 45% in 2023. There was a shift. Residential went from 66% to 71.5%. And the reverse shift in the commercial, where it went from 34 to 28.5%, which is why the council chose to do the phase-in. And so this is, again, this reflects this budget reflects the third year of the phase-in. The mayor went through the calendar, the upcoming dates, and so I'll leave those there for your reference, but that's the end of the presentation. And again, thank you to my team, and thanks to the mayor. Enjoyed working with the mayor for the first time, and yeah, I know it was tough on her, and we talked about it at length, and so appreciate her patience and cooperation and input and everything.
Questions for Jared or the mayor?
Yeah, Ed, this is Troy. Thank you, Jared, for the presentation. This is your third budget here?
My second.
Second one?
My second.
Time flies. Listen, can you go back to that slide that shows the 60% increase for the city side?
I believe you're talking about slide 5, Troy, the line item detail.
Yes. Yeah. And let's walk through this again. So that's the 60% increase. That's where we're going. 10 city side's going to 10%. I've been on this thing on the board for a number of years, and obviously I've never seen it. The city side has always been a cost of inflation or lower. Can you walk us through what happened here and how did this happen again? I just want to get a better understanding because it is alarming to me seeing this for the first time.
So, and Tom may be able to help out here, because it did, start before my time. But I think that there was an understanding that there was a balance in the internal service fund. And so the internal service fund, again, consists of 6 different buckets. It's healthcare, city employee healthcare. It is the LAP, and it's workers compensation. So those 3 buckets, and there is one of each of those for each of us, the Board of Education and the city. And so the six total buckets. That money, the appropriations to various line items in the budget go into the internal service fund. And so the idea is that we would have, in the case of liabilities coming due, that we have plenty of money in there to deal with those if they all hit at once. Because there are any number of legal claims against the city and against the Board of Education that we need to budget for and create a reserve for. And so there was a few years ago, there was a balance in there, a pretty hefty balance in that in the internal service fund, and the decision was made to utilize some of basically draw down some of that balance, similar to a fund balance, a general fund balance, to draw down some of that and not have to appropriate or contribute the full amount of healthcare or other aspects of the internal service fund in those other buckets.
Jared, is that a standard operating procedure? I mean, that's where I'm a little confused. I don't remember this coming up in our discussions. Other board members could jump in, but is that standard? How come those weren't brought to our attention? It's just something. It just seems like I said, it's alarming to me.
It definitely happens. It's whether it's standard or not, it's situational, depending on what that balance is. If you have that balance and it's not being used for anything similar to a fund balance, if that were to get too high, then you could use that to offset and create savings in tough years, and in years where there's where we are dealing with a phase-in and the impact of that, to offset that, to give increases to the Board of Education that they're looking for. And so And so that kind of helps to free up funds for those purposes, because we don't have to, in those years where it's done, we don't have to appropriate the full amount. What happened was that we can't do that anymore. The fund balance is not strong enough any longer to be able to do that. And so we had these lower appropriation amounts, starting from a few years ago and last year. So we're having to now rebuild, and we have to fund those fairly dramatic increases because they weren't fully appropriated in previous years. They were funded, the cash was there to pay for these things, but the balance of the fund has gotten too low, and so now we need to rebuild.
What was the number last year, Jared? If you did something last year instead of this year, I'm looking at $14 million increase in that line item, right?
So you see the number there, the 24 million?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Yeah, the 24 million.
Yeah, it went from 24,151, 24,156, then to 38,691 for next year.
And so a lot of that is, some of that is, there's pension in there as well. And so I'm happy to provide you with whatever detail you're going to need on this. And I know there's going to be requests, and we can break down the buckets and, let you know exactly what is.
Okay, and my original question was to you. You've been from Fairfield. You've seen. What was done over the last number of years? Is that standard for cities to do with their budgets, to use that account or accounts like that to offset shortfalls?
If there's sufficient money in the balance, and if it's overbalance, if there's more than you would typically need, then yes, it happens. We did it in Fairfield. It was used in Fairfield.
And is there any way you could phase in something like this
Yes.
more gradually than take this one-time hit after not? Sounds like this has been going on for a number of years, right?
So that's the key. And I mentioned this with regard to the debt service premium, the way that I plan to phase that in or step it down over a period of years. And that's the key to this, is that when you go into it, you have to go into it knowing that if it's done year over year over year, you're going to hit a cliff like we're seeing now, instead of phasing it in or stepping it down over a period of years.
I appreciate that. Well, having said that, it looks like it's 10%. I'm just saying that number seems a difficult number for me to swallow. On top of the phase-in, or in year 3, I was hoping that we were going to actually have a glide year this year, because I figured a lot of these properties coming online on the commercial side would have helped on the commercial side, which would have helped our the grand list, which would have offset some of the taxes as we've gone into year 4, but on the phase in. But I just think that number is very high, and I think we have our work cut out for us on this, and there's not a lot of room to play with on the fund balance side stuff, because if you look at our ratios that you had given us in a separate memo earlier, we're pushing up against the limits to keep our AAA rating. So as the mayor said, this is exceptionally challenging. So,
and as we go through our
got to the end
deliberations,
of the closing out the FY25 books, and started seeing that this net position of the internal service fund and where that was, and you go back and look at the history, and you see it declining, and It's definitely a cause for concern, and we have a better model now for projecting what's going to happen in the internal service fund and projecting the costs related to it, looking at the history of these costs. I had an intern, hired an intern last summer, and we went through all kinds of data, and we now have a good database of 20 years worth of data on all different measures. And so that's helpful in using to model whether in this case it's the expenses that may hit by looking at past averages, and then also to model revenues in the future, which is going to be important too, as we did a little framework of a 5-year financial plan last summer. And so we're going to expand on that this summer and do a full-blown financial model looking out 5 years, because that's where you would see this. That's where this would become obvious, that you would, as you're going out into the years, you would see that you would see those kinds of things and be able to prepare for them in advance.
Appreciate that, Jared. I would simply say, though, as part of our deliberation, sharing as much of that modeling as possible will be important, not waiting for the summer to get to that level of detail. I would instruct every single department head as we get into our deliberations, and I'll get to Ms. Yang in a moment, that they should be expecting to defend every single line item within the budget. I know as one member of the BET, I will not accept an answer of, well, we held this flat to last year. It's just not going to work in our deliberations. That said, that's what the deliberations are for, to challenge and find opportunities to reduce the numbers here. Ms. Yang.
Number one, Jared and team, thank you for, again, putting this together. I know it's an enormous amount of work. I'm focused on the grand list because there's one issue relative to understanding and curbing our expenditures, which is going to be critical in this year. The other is how do you grow the pie? Our revenues have declined from funding from the federal and from the state government. And one of the ways is growing the grand list. And while we have had growth in the grand list, given all the construction that is going on in the city, I would have thought we would have seen more. And so I would ask within these deliberations that we have a greater analysis of what exactly is going on with the grand list, because part of the premise of the phase-in, which was mitigating the increase from 66% to 71% residential, is that over this period of time, we would see the residential portion of the overall grand list conceivably go down because commercial would be going up. And right now, from the way I've looked at the numbers, that number hasn't budged. So I just wonder where, with all the development that's going on, where is this? And so if we had an opportunity to just understand sort of the top 10 developments or the top 20 developments and what kind of abatements within an enterprise zone, because one of the ways to handle the growth that the city is looking to accomplish in terms of schools, in terms of spending, in terms of people, is growing the grand list. And so I, for one, would just be interested, because I think that would alleviate a lot of the financial pressures that what we might see right now staring at us in this operating budget.
So I can address some of that. One of the reasons that you don't see the brand list growth quite as much is because we're still in that phase-in period, which means that if there is new development that comes online, that's also subject to the phase-in based on the number of years that are remaining. So if if we're in the second year, then you still have 3 years worth of phase in. So if it's if let's say it brought in $100 million, you would only recognize 33 million of that when there's 3 years left. And so that's definitely curtailing it. But I'll say this is when I talk about the $300 million in growth and natural growth, that's not bad. And it's typically, if you're getting 1% growth, is pretty standard, I would say. And for smaller towns that don't have quite the commercial, they're looking at between 0.5%, 0.75%. That's pretty standard. For us to do that $300 million equates to about 1.8% growth. That's strong, especially in the phase-in year. And so, I know it's not producing and not having the effect that we want it to on tax bills because of the other strains on the budget that are overpowering it. But there's nothing to be worried about in growth of that amount, again, especially in a phase-in year where we're phasing in the growth as well.
If I just might add, I'd like to understand the 300 million, because I see it in the $1,050,000,000 minus the 750 gets you to 300. But I see that the gross and residential and gross commercial have grown 125 million, and then motor vehicle and personal property are up 75. So that gets me to 200. So I don't know where the other 100 comes in. So that's number one. But number two is perhaps if the phase-in is distorting this, can we have a projection of what the numbers and the mix will look like at the end of the phase-in?
Yep. I would add or ask Jared that what we do is we actually add to our deliberations a specific discussion on the grand list, address Ms. Yang's questions, address a 3 to 5 year outlook on the grand list as well, which gets us past the phase-in, and make sure that we can, as part of all of that, reconcile the numbers, because I too, like Ms. Yang, am having challenges tracking to the different numbers that we've thrown out verbally here. So if we could add that as a specific session to our deliberations, I think it'd be very helpful in understanding and making decisions.
Well,
Additional questions?
I'd like to just add a couple of comments.
Absolutely, Madam Mayor.
And Jared, I really want to thank you for your work and working with all the departments and our discussions as well. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I found this all pretty stunning myself. And I think, we talked a lot about the internal debt service, and this is, these are questions I've wondered about as a council member, if we have been appropriately funding it. And I know how important that it is, and this is something we really, really need to address, because it's about the future of the city. So I really do feel strongly it's important that we address that. But I also want to just express here how important it is to me that we keep our AAA bond rating. And so, as we're, continuing these deliberations and really digging in with all the departments, I just want to express that's very important to me that we don't do anything that's really going to risk that.
Understood, Madam Mayor, and I think the board shares that point of view very, very strongly.
Yep. Oh, I hear comments about that often. Why is it so important? And it's crucially important for the financial health of the city.
Absolutely. Any additional questions, comments, remarks related to the proposed operating budget? Seeing none, I believe we have one more agenda item, and that is quickly an update on where we are with our contingency tracker. So Tom, do you want to cover that item, please?
Yeah, sure thing. After January's meeting, we were left with $546,000 after starting the year with $1.4 million, much of that due to the school resource officer overtime, as well as the registrar of voters activity. And then having just approved the $210,000 for the health department on the condemnation and relocating residents, that will bring us down to $336,000 with about 5 months to go in the year.
Okay, very good. Any questions regarding contingency from anyone?
Yeah, and how do you feel about that, Tom? Will you feel comfortable with that number as far as how we get through the rest of the year?
If this cold snap breaks, yes. But yeah, I mean, it's impossible to tell, but looking back at history, most of the times it's, in the $10,000 to $20,000 range are the requests. I would consider this event that we discussed this evening very much out of the norm. The police overtime, also, I guess it's become somewhat the norm over the last few years, but what we've asked, just a little heads up, what we've asked them to do this year is to include that in their request for fiscal 27 because it's here to stay. So we won't be seeing that coming out of contingency next year, assuming that it gets approved during the budget process. So yeah, I think we'll be okay. Not a lot left over, but we'll be okay.
Thanks.
Very good.
Real quick,
Go ahead, Artie, please.
Tom, if we get money back from the whole building thing fiasco we just gave money to, will it go back into contingency?
But it'll go back into the general fund.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's up to us what to do, to do with it, depending on what we appropriate for a budget in fiscal 27 for contingency. So it will come back to the city in some capacity.
Yeah. Okay.
And well, we don't know when that will be, but.
Very good. Anything else on contingency? As a reminder, in our packet is all of the standard reporting, including the Norwalk Public Schools construction update, the Oak Hills Authority report, the narrative from the tax collector, etc. Those are all there for your reading pleasure if and when you get to them. With that, I do not believe there is any other business we have in front of us this evening, and therefore I will ask for a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Artie. We are adjourned. Have a nice evening, everyone.
Night all.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye-bye.